Thanks, Marino. Hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Danny Martin. I'm a senior architect at Hayball in Brisbane, and I'm the current Mayfield Project Chair for LEA. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to the presentation for the 2020 Mayfield Project tonight. For those that don't know, the Mayfield Project is a collaborative exploration for early career professionals, bringing together educators, planners, and designers to investigate a current issue or theory affecting learning environments. Named to honour one of LEA's founders, John Mayfield, the program builds on the Young Professionals project John ran in 2006. Since its inception in 2009, over 150 Mayfielders have been through the ranks, sharing their passion and knowledge with the wider membership. Running every 2 years, the project has often faced challenges where we thought it could not go ahead. This year was certainly no different. For this, our 6th Mayfield project, we were presented with some very unique challenges. Just a few weeks prior to our planned first workshop in Sydney, the country shut down. Suddenly, our collaborative, hands-on project had to pivot to accommodate an online-only environment. Luckily, we had a committed group of young professionals and some extraordinarily talented facilitators in the form of NoTosh, and the project proceeded in a really interesting way. It's been a very different process, sharing everything online and overseeing this work without actually meeting any of the Mayfielders in person. This year's Mayfielders has risen to the challenge and I believe have created something incredibly special. Investigating the ideas of creativity and curiosity in learning, the project evolved to a lived experience of the very themes they were researching. The resulting report is a brilliant combination of experience and learnings. This PDF is available now online. A complimentary link will be sent to all members tonight, and the report is also available for purchase by non-members. I'll hand over to the Mayfielders shortly to share what they've discovered, but firstly, I'd just like to give a few quick thanks. Thank you to LEA for their continued support of the Mayfield project, including creating a Mayfield project committee so that we continue to invest in the sustainability and longevity of the project. Thank you to the inaugural Mayfield committee members, Avril Moore, Amon Broderick and Marino Rossi, and to NoTosh, who agreed to work with us again for their 3rd Mayfield project, especially the insightful work of facilitators Jeremy and Chantel. And finally, of course, thank you to the 2020 Mayfield, as well as their employers who have allowed their participation this year. This year was not an easy one for a lot of people, but you've continued to work through the project to prepare an extraordinary result. Thank you for all your contributions. I hope you've enjoyed the project as much as I have enjoyed learning from you all.
Thanks, Danny. Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Davis from Infrastructure and Planning in the Department of Education in Victoria. I would just like to note that we're presenting today during NAIDOC week, and we would like to acknowledge that in respect to the traditional owners across Australia as the original custodians of our lands and waters, their unique ability to care for the country and deep spiritual connection to it. I would personally like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri of the Woiwurrung in the Kulin Nation where I'm presenting from today. We honour elders past and present whose knowledge and wisdom has and will ensure the continuation of cultures and traditional practices. We extend our respect to other elders and Koori people present today.
Kia ora, ko Nadia toku ingoa, no tamaki makoto aho, he kaiako o te oke nā para pohatu. I am Nadia Turner, I'm from Auckland. I'm an educator currently based at Stonefield School. E mihi anō mātua ki a tangata whenua o Aotearoa. Ki kai ki rātou I te whenua me te taio. We acknowledge the tangata whenua of Aotearoa, the guardians of the land and the natural world. Cool, be introduced to us. We are the 2020 Mayfield team, a diverse bunch consisting of 6 facility planners, 7 designers, 5 educators from across Australasia. As we know, this has been an unprecedented year, significantly impacting the way in which we live and ultimately the ways in which we have had to work. The 2020 Mayfielders met during this pandemic, and it has drastically changed how we have had intended on connecting. The face-to-face was no longer, and we were thrust into collaborating from a distance. Not only did we need to figure out ways of collaborating, but we also had to negotiate time zones. I actually think the most challenge was for the New Zealanders, who being the later team. Our learning journey began with NOTOSH. They facilitated 4 workshops via Zoom between June and September 2020, as well as introducing us to our workspace, which was Meadow. For those of you that don't know, Meadow is an online collaborative whiteboard, which is pictured here. This tool was absolutely invaluable and allowed us to develop our project, sharing ideas, content, and wonderings despite being in isolation. It was also these very circumstances that sparked insightful discussions about distance learning and the future of learning environments in a post-COVID world, a theme that is threaded throughout our publication.
My name is Angelina, an architectural graduate from New Zealand. It's my pleasure to introduce our research, which is an inquiry-based design thinking process. Our aim is to make a tangible difference to how future learning spaces are proposed, designed, and used. Even though the LEA conference wasn't able to take place this year, we kept the theme of the Mayfield project as reactivate curiosity and learning. Our thoughts evolved during the course of our collaboration. We found the concept of creativity to correlate with curiosity. So the overarching inquiry that we arrived at is, how might we reactivate creativity and learning and give space for lifelong curiosity?
Hi, I'm Tilly Caddy. I'm a landscape architect from WA. We'd now like to share with you 4 of the workshop activities that we undertook. These were led by NOTOSH and were key in distilling our provocation, as well as the tools themselves now becoming part of our individual kit parts for future learning and exploration. I will now share with you one of the 9 workshop activities. So in small groups, we used this squid tool to delve deeper into topics related to our provocation, relating to curiosity and creativity. These question-answer question scenarios resulted in known knowns or ungoogleable questions. Our squids enabled us to identify key values for both creativity and curiosity and their defining points. We then took our unknown knowns as the basis for our next workshop activity, which was the experiments.
Hi, my name's Jo Frith and I'm one of the educators on the project from Sydney, New South Wales. The Mayfielders were asked to experiment with ideas around curiosity and to see what human data they could discover which may benefit curiosity in learning and learning spaces. The experiments were based on a hunch or assumption which emerged from interviews and squid activities which they were eager to test. Some examples of assumptions that were investigated were how the physical environment impacts curiosity, examining how the importance of rewards for being curious varied amongst people, and exploring how the delivery of information using either visual or text sparked curiosity the most. Here you will see an overview of the findings from the experiment by a Mayfielder who explored the delivery of information using either the visual or text to see which sparked more curiosity. The final experiment outcome indicated that more opportunities for generating curiosity were supported by visual delivery.
Hi, my name is Jan Mollison and I'm an educator at Marist College Bendigo. We were lucky enough to be part of a workshop with Steve Collis from the Touchline Institute, and he developed the Touchline tool. The tool really resonated with us and we felt it could be useful in all of our different contexts. The Touchline Institute described this tool as an instrument for cultural change and transformation. And while using it for our purpose, creating moments of curiosity and creativity, we discovered that it is not sufficient to think of the physical space alone when designing for these ideas. Steve described how 3 key elements need to be present if we are to have spaces that inspire and create curious and creative learners. The 3 elements, as seen in the 3 hexagons in the graphic, include the physical space, the information present within the space, and a shared understanding of how the space is used. And it is a balance of these 3 ideas that all contribute to successful learning environments and learning cultures. Next slide. We soon discovered that it was often a lack of shared or cultural understanding that led to unsuccessful spaces or moments. We participated in workshops where we reverse engineered moments of creativity and curiosity, and we unpacked what these moments would need and found that collaboratively constructing shared understandings and routines around curiosity and creativity were critical. These understandings needed to involve the stakeholders, so whether it be the learners within the learning environment, like being part of creating these routines, or whether it be a variety of stakeholders being part of a building project. All these voices need to be heard in the creation of these understandings.
Hi, my name's David Muir. I'm a facility planner from Perth. For our third workshop, the Mayfield project team sought to transform a typical education brief. The purpose of this task was to put into practice all that we had learned and explored with regards to curiosity and apply it to real-world scenarios. In our working lives, whether we are facility planners, designers, or educators, we all work with briefs that set out parameters for school designs. The Mayfielders were presented with a typical education design brief for a secondary school. We were asked to review and transform the document so that it provided opportunity and flexibility to integrate elements of curiosity and creativity. We challenged the typical brief in an attempt to be more inclusive to all types of learners and to ensure sustainability principles were upheld. Aside from the typical design brief elements, we recommend future design briefs create spaces that enhance and connect to the natural environment, blurring the lines between indoor and outdoor, with opportunities for outdoor learning. We recommend external environments as an extension of the traditional classroom. Create spaces that are durable with buildings that last a minimum of 25 years, keeping in mind that trees will outlive building life expectancy. Spaces should also provide opportunities for technological and generational changes. Create spaces that provide a sense of belonging. Create flexible and adaptable learning spaces, allowing for a multitude of school and community uses over time. All learners should feel safe, fun, and creative. For more design brief elements, you'll need to purchase our document. Thanks, James. Next slide.
Hi, everyone. My name is Liz, and I work with the Facility Services team managing educational facilities around Tasmania. In one of our workshops, we were asked to pen what our individual design principles were on the mirror board. This image shows the collective thinking of the team. Using the design thinking methodology, we took each principle and grouped them based on similarities. We then themed each group with an overarching theme. The colored boxes that you see show what the themes are, namely people, emotions, discomfort, understanding, comfort, unknowns, and stimuli. Through this exercise, we also found some of the principles explicitly mention space, place, or an environment, hence an additional link to that theme. As a whole, there is no one dominant theme. Instead, they are all interconnected. Taking the exercise one step further, the themes were then sorted to a hierarchical order, highlighting how one factor affects the next to ultimately achieve creativity and curiosity. The thinking behind it was that people were the source and creators of a place. They emit emotion and produce stimuli. Questions of whether they were comfortable or uncomfortable, known or unknowns are then asked. Ultimately, these factors and questions could lead to a creative or curious moment. This diagram also shows how intertwined each hierarchical level is and how they could all trigger curiosity and creativity.
Thanks, Liz. My name's Ella Masters. I'm an architect and planner from Canberra. So as well as the design principles that Liz just touched on, I'm just going to briefly talk about sort of three key takeaways that we came up with. So the first one was to really nut out the differences and the links between curiosity and creativity. So an understanding that even though these two concepts are linked, they're actually quite different processes that require different physical settings to be successful. So curiosity thrives on not knowing all the answers and is a process of discovery, whereas creativity is a process that's enriched by already knowing all of the answers and then putting them together in new or unique ways. So we repeatedly identified curiosity as being a key motivator for learners, and that if used the right way is a really powerful tool to increase engagement, retention and understanding. So the next really important key finding was that what was needed to facilitate curiosity was a comfortable and safe environment. So we understood this on two levels. So a spatial kind of understanding. So that was that we repeatedly found that learners made a highly personal choice around where they wanted to learn. So giving them options was really important. It was often sort of smaller spaces, so a variety of scale was also quite important, and inclusion of natural elements and soft furnishings that sometimes gave it a more residential feel. So the other thing that we really unpacked was safety on an organisational level. And so that is linking back to what Jana touched on with the touchline tool, and that's a shared understanding of how the space is used. So things like learners feeling safe to fail and then having the resilience to bounce back from basically not knowing all the answers. Thanks. And then the last part that we got to that became very clear when we were doing the process that David spoke about with the brief was that we really need to make a concerted decision to maximise engagement between stakeholders in the process around designing these spaces. So it was what we called the human factor. So where we're learning really needs to be developed in parallel with what we're learning, why we're learning, and how we're learning. So James is going to talk a little bit now about the guide that's sort of a bit of a practical tool for pulling together a lot of the findings and the research outcomes that has come out of the last couple of months of work.
Hi everyone, my name is James Lewis. I'm an architect from Brisbane. I'm working at Fulton Trotter Architects. So the intention of our project team was to create a document that future designers, educators and policymakers can use as a strategy document to create a better built environment outcomes for learners. This section, we sought to consolidate our thinking from the 2020 Mayfield project and share suggestions for best practice and provide future steps that you might take as positive action for your learning environments. I suppose in the end we settled on the idea of a flowchart as a way to graphically represent the process we went through, because there were so many overlaps and the interconnectedness between creativity and curiosity, as well as how those two ideas sort of connect into different learning environments, and also how they relate to the different professions that we all represented as part of the group. So the facility planners, the designers and the educators. Now you might be wondering why we haven't shown you the guide straight away. That was, I suppose, part of what we learned when we were looking at curiosity, was that it can stem out of not knowing all the answers. So in an endeavor to make you all a little bit curious, we're going to sort of slowly reveal it for you. But in general, there's three sort of main elements of the guide that you need to know a bit about. The first is the legend. All architects like a good legend. The second is a sort of stepping off point, so that allows sort of broadly the three professions to sort of plug into the guide at first and try and explain to people who don't have the luxury of being here today what the guide is about. And the third is a small curiosity and creativity explainer, which is a flowchart inside a flowchart that looks at the difference between the two ideas of curiosity and creativity. The legend has a series of tiles that sort of pick up different things. I suppose just broadly the start is the start, and tries to explain in a little summary about what the idea of the guide is. The key steps sort of represent the key steps in the process of designing and planning and using a educational space, and so that allowed us to sort of plug in the different professions into this this flowchart. The information tab tiles were sort of contain various ideas or aspects of teaching spaces, whether that be physical or sort of more educational requirements. The prompts, the purple circles are quite important, as that allowed us a way of giving each profession a way to plug into this flowchart. The questions as well were there to help articulate the lines of questioning that various professions might pursue in the development of teaching spaces. So whether that be from a planning perspective, a design perspective, or as an educator. So, and they range from everything from have educators being consulted in the project to how would you describe the space. So there's quite a variety of questions in there. And the coloured tiles was an attempt to take out all of the sort of the broad and diverse findings we came to and try and categorise them to the different professions and also people outside of our group, so learners and generally everyone. The idea there was that once you're familiar with the guide and sort of run through from the top, you might then sort of start cherry picking different tiles based on whatever colour that you might be interested in. So say that be an educator or a planner. The stepping off point. So as you can see, so the three purple circles were for the planners, the educators, and the designers to sort of start with a bit of a premise around why you might be using this guide, and then sort of plug into that sort of planning and design process around how you might assess a learning space, and to start that sort of journey of trying to promote curiosity and or creativity in those spaces. As you can see, even this small section has a lot of arrows and interconnectivity, so that was a lot of fun to put together. And lastly, before we get to the actual guide itself, the explainer. So the idea there was just to try and compress and show graphically how curiosity and creativity are different. And I suppose broadly speaking, I suppose we've touched on a bit in the presentation already, but the creativity sort of requires more familiarity and comfort within a space. Sort of, to give an example, so an artist in their studio knowing where everything is so that they can get on with the creative endeavor of creating artwork. Whereas curiosity stems from a mixture of not knowing all the answers and confidence to explore and investigate what those answers might be. And without further ado, this is the guide. So as you can see, there's a fair bit of information in there, and it sort of branches off in all weird and wonderful directions. So unfortunately, we don't have the time or the technology to zoom in and give you a guided tour of every single tile, but I'd like to encourage you to get a copy of this as part of our Mayfield 2020 report and explore it at your leisure.
My name's Amanda Loffman. I'm an architect in Victoria working for Heed Architects, and it's my pleasure to do the thank you. So on behalf of the team, we'd really like to thank LEA and also our employees for giving us this wonderful opportunity to participate in the Mayfield project. A big thank you to Danny, who guided our team through the Mayfield process, and also to Angelina, who did a phenomenal job compiling and formatting the report. Thank you. And lastly to James, he was the one that set out the creativity and curiosity guide. Even though we all kept changing and having more input, then James would go in and sort it all out, so it looked good. Thank you. I'd like to finish with a quote from one of the educators in our team, Joe. The key components of learning environments, the physical space, furniture, learning curriculum goals, are vital aspects for all stakeholders to consider to reactivate curiosity and give space for lifelong learning. Thank you.
Well, fantastic. I'd like to, well, I think just from that short summary, I think you'd all agree that's another extraordinary program of inquiry that's been delivered by the Mayfield Group, really pushing the boundaries of imagination. Just in terms of what I've taken out of in my review of the document so far, I'm really interested in the idea of reactivating curiosity and learning over time and circumstances. And I think this year has shown what the change in circumstances can do in terms of reactivating curiosity. Also, the idea that curiosity is a significant trigger to deep learning, which is a big part of the research work that LEA has been doing over the last 5 years. And also, coming at it from an architect's perspective, it's the whole idea of how spaces support curiosity and make it an enjoyable process. So I would encourage everyone to buy the report and explore the Curiosity and Creativity Guide, because one of the things you'll find is that you will actually be able to generate your own set of design principles from that process, which it will be amazing to see the results that people get from that process. So to wrap up, I'd like to thank Danny and Avril for the leadership on this program. I'd like to thank Eamon from Council for the support, and also to all you Mayfielders for 2020 for an outstanding job of doing this work remotely, and you should be very proud of the significant body of work you've produced. It's a record for perpetuity that we can all access as a ready guide. So thank you very much from everyone at LEA for your involvement during this process. So I think with that, if there's nothing else, I'd thank everyone for coming to the AGM tonight, and let's embark on the reconnection. And